Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another exuberant episode of Diatribes with the voice of Boone. Now, here's your elastic and ecstatic host, voice of Boone. Hello, everyone. I'm filming this on my personal laptop because I do not know the pin for Dooms, unfortunately. So, excuse the resolution. I'd like to think that this is more of a podcast anyways. So, and I just realized that I don't have a microphone plugged in, so be prepared for the audio to be subpar. I'm filming this in such urgency because I just read an article. I didn't even really read it, I just skimmed it. Elizabeth Holmes has given birth to her second child and is now asking judges to let her out to tend for it while pending appeal. So, quick reminder, I've been keeping up with Elizabeth Holmes for more or less, what would it be now? At least 2 years. She is a woman who dropped out of Stanford because she wanted to be the next thrill-seeking Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or, Warren Buffett. Someone who made a lot of money, someone with a business mindset, someone who was going to take the world by storm. She could, because our force structure totally supports that sort of thinking now. It's not like it was just a one-off, and the only reason we know Jobs and Gates and Warren. I think Warren Buffett has a degree. I'm not going to check right now. Regardless, you really should strive for bettering yourself before trying to build a business empire, for that matter. And she didn't want to accept that. She didn't want to get a degree. She didn't want to start off small. She used her money from her parents to start a business involving, how can I do such an intricate nutshell? It was called the Edison, and basically you take a little pinprick of blood, and that little pinprick is supposed to diagnose you with any sort of deficiencies, diseases, etc., etc. Now, very cool idea, very interesting execution, as she got so much starting capital and so much, so many other funds from different sources because, she was charming. She was probably a very good talker. This was Silicon Valley during the early 2000s, so I'd imagine there was a lot of money being thrown around just about everywhere. This was during Facebook's, what would you call it, startup as well, probably Amazon as well. Just loads of businesses that we know and love today were really getting started around then. So it's not too bizarre to think that Theranos, the name of her business, would also succeed in some regard. However, and this is a big however, the invention didn't work. It did not function. It was basically just a box of useless plastic and bits and pieces inside of it. It would be best used as a paperweight of some kind rather than any sort of industrial medical device. So eventually she was caught. She was charged with, I believe, 7 or 8 counts of fraud, 9 or 11, something like that. Regardless, she received a lot of time in prison. I was predicting 5 years. She actually got 11. But before she was actually sentenced, she met a man. Well, not much before. I believe 2017 was the year she met her current husband after having sort of an on-again, off-again relationship with her COO, so you could imagine what the family dinners were like with that. But she started a relationship with a new man and had a kid. But she had that kid so close to her trial date that a lot of people, myself included, thought clearly she's trying to garner some sort of sympathy. I think California, depending on what region you are, is extremely democratic and extremely, like non-traditional. They'll probably look at her and say, look, she's a blonde, relatively young woman who's got a kid now, so let's just slap on the wrist. She has to pay back the money someday, but ultimately, let's not give her any jail time. And that's probably what she was thinking. Because I don't recall her explaining any sort of character reference letters that adequately described how sorry she was. An interesting YouTuber whose channel is called White Collar Advice, I think really hit the nail on the head rather, and said that first of all, apologizing for your actions while also following them up with a statement of how exactly you're going to make recompense will be the best plan you could ever have to put in front of a judge. If you break someone's window, the person isn't going to come out and say, hey, you broke my window. How has this affected you? What are your plans to fix the window, and how sorry are you for doing so? That's what a judge wants to hear. So, she had her kid, but she still received 11 years. Okay, so what's happening now? Well, one of her biggest offenses was, I'm too young to know what's right and wrong. But at the same time, it kind of feels like a chicken and egg thing, because it's like, well, you were old enough to start a business and gain billions. I don't know about billions, actually. Billion sounds like a weird number. I know that she owes $1 billion now. But regardless, she employed thousands of workers. Probably, she was the head honcho with this invention.
Bitch.
There's no denying that she had some knowledge of what was going on behind the scenes, or if not, that's the beauty of private businesses. It's just because you're not there, your name's on the title of the letterhead, therefore you are held responsible. It's the beauty of red, white, and blue. We hold our people accountable even when, well, they're not personally there. Really makes it hard to start a business, I'd imagine. But once you get the ball rolling, you can end up just like Jeff Bezos. So I think she's clearly trying to push the starting line further and further. What do I mean by that? When you start a race, I think really getting your first few feet in front of you is the hardest part, because you have such a long trek to go. It's not the last few yards or the last few meters. It's the first ones, because you know that there are like 11 or 12 other guys next to you running at the same ferocity, and you got to keep up with them at the start. That's going to be the deciding factor. And Elizabeth doesn't want to start her 11-year sentence so soon. She's not ready, or she's still hoping to garner some sort of sympathy. Regardless, it's time to move on, Elizabeth. I mean, 2 children now. It's like her first child. I don't actually think is that old. I don't even know if his name is William Evans Holmes. I don't know if he's actually a year old now, and I really wonder what it's going to be like for the kid in 18 years, knowing that his very inception was possibly used in order to delay his mother's sentencing in court. It would be very horrific, I believe, to acknowledge that tribulation. Who knows, maybe he'll grow up in such a lap of luxury that it won't even faze him. But as for Elizabeth, 2 children now. And now with this one, she's guaranteed to pretty much not be around. So if I were her, I would want to get this over with as unbelievably quick as possible. I want to go to jail right this second to start the counter, get my 11 years over with, get good behavior, get, if she falls into the category, get addiction and drug rehabilitation, time, and also get halfway house time, I believe. I don't know if they have that in California. But get out as unbelievably soon as you can. You might catch your kids before they become teenagers. Because pushing this back, there's two ways to live your life, really, if you want to oversimplify it. There's stressing out about the future and living in every moment. Of course, some people choose to live in the past, but then they're not really living their lives. And right now, she's stressing out, she's really trying to hold on to this future while not realizing that every single day she remains out and just pushing the starting line further and further so that way she doesn't have to go to prison. She's losing her children. I mean, they're young. They're so young to the point where if she went into jail right now and got out, they might not even remember, like, when they're older, in their late teens, early 20s. I'm 23 and I can barely remember, like, more than 5 memories from before I was 9 or 10. It all dramatically falls off a cliff once you get older. I realize that now. We really try to stuff our internal hard drives with more stuff, like remembering names and remembering movies and reading books, and when you're a kid it all just goes by much slower. I felt like the 4th grade was never gonna end, and it did, and everything after that went by quick as a flash. And they will too. They're not gonna remember that their mother did this thing if you just own up to it now. Her character reference letters were a joke. She got hundreds of them. Doesn't she know what a diluted market is? You send in hundreds of letters, you really think a judge is going to read through every single one diligently? Eventually he's going to start seeing carbon copies. The same thing. Elizabeth Holmes didn't know. She was too young. She's helping her community. How is she helping her community, I wonder? You know? Is she going to help repair buildings over in Uganda or something? Is she going down to the poorhouse to serve cheddar broccoli soup to all the vagrants? What's she doing to help her community? I'm genuinely interested in some sort of example. I don't think she's doing any of that. I think that she wanted that dream so bad. She was a talker. She talked about it so much. She grabbed at every single interview she could, like it was a piece of meat, just violently gripping this idea that she wants to be rich and famous without having to earn a degree, without having to climb the corporate ladder, without having to make solid connections in the business world. And no research whatsoever. It's like, I have this vision that nobody should have to say goodbye to a family member too soon. Doesn't that just send shivers down your spine? But in the end, I've owned tube socks that have more of a spine than her. She shut her mouth very quickly when she was charged. She shredded everything. She fired everybody. Of course, the business was going to go down anyways. She bought a dog. She met a guy at Burning Man. And she shut up. And now people want her to talk. They're all like, hey, Elizabeth, how come this happened? How come you lost all this money? How come your company wrongfully diagnosed people? How come all these investors are never getting their money back? Hey, how come you're shutting up now? Hey, what about all this stuff you told Joe Biden? Or what about all this stuff that you said on Mad Money? What about all this stuff you said, I am the youngest self-made female billionaire? Which that kind of loses a lot of its traction once you add that many adjectives. It's like youngest, self-made, female. It'd be one thing to just be, I am the first female. I am the first billionaire. I am the first female billionaire. I am the first youngest self-made female billionaire. You get what I mean. you just can't keep on harping on about the same thing. And she did, and she still is, except now she's brought a wife into this world. And I can't stand the idea of it. And I'm not a parent, but I don't know, okay? I watch a lot of stuff, and I analyze a lot of it. And I see people's lives change on Facebook, and on TikTok, and on YouTube. And I'm not going to pretend like I have an adequate amount of data to represent all of it, but it certainly feels like it some days. You know? Like Ryan's toy review. The kid was like 3 or 4 years old. Now he's in his teens. Miranda Cosgrove, you know? Every red-blooded young American guy, you know, during the early 2000s had the biggest crush on her. Now she's like 27 or something. People are changing, and we're watching. That's the thing about these TVs and these computers and these phones, is we see the change, people. And I don't like it. I'm decently content with it, and I'll make another political video sometime here in the future. But for now, I really did want to just rant about this article because, to me, bringing a human life into the world for the sole purpose of perhaps delaying your sentence by a few more measly months to try to recapture your youth or hold on to some level of normalcy is, I would say, selfish, but I don't know if I'd necessarily grace it with a description that would still coincide with YouTube's terms of service. So, hopefully whoever's watching this enjoyed. I do apologize for the resolution and the subpar audio, no doubt. However, this is a podcast. You don't necessarily need video, and what audio you do have, I think that you will hold on to more greatly given its splotchiness. So stay positive, and thank you for watching.